Well, hello everybody, and what a pop-up situation. And let me show you first. You see my hat? I don't know if you can see it. It says Portsmouth. It says Portsmouth, and it says Acadia Heights, which is my community. And one of the guys that we get together with from our community once a month made these hats for us so we can identify that we're from Portsmouth and from Acadia Heights. But anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome to the pop-up here. I'm Slim, of course, and welcome to the SlimNation One-On-Ones Podcast presents Our Take on It, featuring Slim and Shona. Now, you all are probably familiar with Shona because we've had her on the show a couple of times and talked about have a real serious subject, and we talking during those times. We sort of figured, we might have something there. Let's try something. A combination of Shona and I, and she's my homie. She's our homie from here, from B-Town, but now she lives in ATL. And we said we'll do a little something under the Slim Nation motto called, like I said, Our Take on It, and see how it goes. And we just wanted to pop up. We didn't have anything planned, but going forward, we will have some subjects we'll talk about, but it's kind of going to be unstructured. By the way, hello, hello, Shona. How you doing?
I'm well, James. How are you today?
Because I'll just keep talking and talking because I'm
Hey,
used to going solo. So you have to step in here sometime and let me
I
know.
understand. I
Slim,
understand.
I'm here. I'm here, Slim.
I just want to say it's a beautiful day to be above ground.
How
I'm
about it?
good.
Above ground
Yes.
and
Yes.
in the state of Georgia, that's amazing. You know, P-Town. Then we're going to talk about some of the similarities, Georgia and Virginia. There's a lot of differences, but a lot of similarities. But anyway, we hope that we don't expect a lot of people to be popping on because we just popped up. But this is going to be, of course, it's live and on Facebook and my YouTube channel. And hopefully you'll watch it later. And we're going to come up with our own theme, our own and we might even have a YouTube channel, but I think what I'm trying to do is build something under the label of the Slim Nation and have different shows under that. It's easier to do that than creating all these different channels. But anyway, Shona, so uh, you had a good week today, so share with us how the week was. I mean, did you start the week off smiling and end the week up smiling, or what happened in between?
Well, I started the week off in a solemn mood because I had just come back from my hometown. I went to a funeral there. I had a death in my family. It was very bittersweet because uh, for the occasion, of course, it was a funeral. It was sad. It was my sister-in-law, and I loved her dearly. But it was really, really good to be able to see some of my home folk. Uh, those, any interaction with people from my hometown is epic for me. And so I'm still building on memories. That was the sweet part of it. I got a chance to visit the casino there in Portsmouth for the second time. Um, it's a nice little spot. I for eating out anyway. I don't know what else is there much because once you leave home, home ain't home no more. Everything really changes. So I have to ask people where to go for this and where can I get that when I come home.
A
That's
lot of different.
exactly. It's like I'm a visitor in my own home.
Yeah,
That's
like
the
those
only way to put
landmarks you remember are not there anymore. Some places are torn down, and
it.
even in your
Exactly.
own neighborhood, you look for that tree or you look for that building, and You make a wrong turn, you end up in Norfolk.
There's, wait a minute, where did that house come from? Where does this freeway go to? Oh
Yeah,
my God. Where's Port Norfolk now? Did
yeah.
they move it? It's an adventure, I can tell you that. But one thing I wanted to speak on when you had
Mhm.
mentioned the some similarities of Portsmouth as comparison to Atlanta, one of the
PT,
things that
P-Town and
really
ATL.
okay. One of the things that really endeared me to Atlanta when I first moved there is I don't care where you're from, there's some spot, some neighborhood in Atlanta that's going to remind you of home.
Yeah.
That's how diverse it is. All of the neighborhoods, the different venues. Some place is going to remind you of home. I don't care where you're from.
Yeah, and we grew up in like similar neighborhoods, and anybody watching that's from Portsmouth knows about trucks in the Katy Heights area. They know about Piedmont Heights, Prentice Park,
I beg
and
to
Piedmont
differ.
Heights. Go ahead.
I beg to differ. You know why? Because I cannot tell you the countless numbers of people that I have talked to who did not know that the area where I grew up in is Piedmont Heights. They always thought it was Prentice Park.
Yeah, well, it's the same with Acadia Heights, because
That's
sometimes I
true.
would just have to say Truxton, and
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
knew where Truxton was, so I would just say Acadia Heights. Now, I've told the story before. If I was in a neighborhood back in the day that was fighting Truxton, or that was a rival of Truxton, I would say I was from Acadia Heights. Nobody knew that that was actually
I could see that happening because I would have been
adjacent to Truxton.
I would have been one of those people.
Yeah. But yeah, and you're right. Piedmont Heights, the only people knew about that were you all that lived there and people like me that visited, had a lot of friends out there. And I knew that it was called Piedmont Heights. And I guess a lot of times y'all just said, Prentice Park, just so I
Exactly.
don't have to explain all this stuff to you, where it is. And
Exactly. So then
yeah,
I would
but I
have to give
mean,
them landmarks. Frederick Military Academy. You know what that
yeah,
is on Portsmouth Boulevard? How
yeah.
about Corporate Funeral Home? So it's just one
Everybody
of
knew
those
what that
things.
was. Speaking of
Oh
Frederick
yeah.
Military College, Speaking of Frederick
Uh-huh.
Military College, wasn't that something that you all lived next door? I remember y'all lived across the street from it almost, Boston Boulevard. And I
Yes.
remember, during the time we were young coming up, it was just for whites. It was like a military cop school for whites. And it was like Boston Boulevard separated that. And I could remember seeing those guys, young white boys, walking to Mid City in those uniforms. And I actually
Yeah.
wanted to do that. I remember telling my dad I wanted to, but I didn't understand the difference. I probably wouldn't get accepted at
Right.
that time, because we couldn't even go to the theaters downtown. But I wanted to be a part of that, in those uniforms.
So I
And
was
that they
about to
were
say,
just as separate.
you like me for very different reasons. Love to see a man in uniform.
Yeah, I wanted to be that guy in the uniform. So, because
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
knew ladies liked the guy in the uniform, and the
Oh
most
yeah.
uniform I had was a Boy Scout uniform, and I didn't attract anybody in that.
Well,
You know,
that's a good thing. You were blessed because everybody can't say that either. Okay.
well, you're right, right. Hoorah for
But
Pack 87. Pack 87.
okay, there's just
But
something
anyway,
about a man in uniform. Very attractive.
yeah, I want to ask you this about ATL, and similar once you go someplace like that, you find out, especially, if you come from a black neighborhood and you go to a black neighborhood in ATL or any of the surrounding counties or cities in Georgia around Atlanta, and you'll find those similar places. Was the adjustment, you know, how long did it take you to adjust, coming from P Town? And I remember you saying you hadn't been too many places before you went there. So that
No.
was like a move, just like somebody, like they telling us to go back to Africa. Just all of a sudden, we get on a boat and go back to the Congo. Don't want to be in the Congo right now because they fighting like cats and dogs. But
Wow.
how the place would have been from, even though our ancestors are from there. But how was that move? I mean, it was a necessary move. You don't have to get into the details about that, but the move in general, you know, uh, just making that
It
kind of
was
move, and
everything was like an adventure.
mm,
Everything. It's like when you do travel, everything is new. Um, you're in awe of some things that you haven't seen before. So it was like that for me pretty much every day. And like I said, you go to some neighborhoods, all of them are new to you because you've never been there. And then you see some things that remind you of home. You see neighborhoods where the houses are look like houses in some of the neighborhoods in Portsmouth. You know, um, it's just you just have to have an adventurous spirit to be able to roll, that roller coaster and go down a street you've never been down before. And someone close to me once said to me, the best way to learn a new city is to get lost.
yeah,
And that is true. That is true. And it's just so amazing how many you may see a small street that you could turn down off of a main street. And if you do, it opens up a whole different world, larger than the one you just left. It
yeah,
seems to be an endless maze of amazement. That's the only way I can describe it. And then, if you're lucky enough to have the option, you can take your time and figure out which place you'd like to settle. Where do you feel, comfortable? The people are, for the most part, very friendly.
mhm,
Um, it's not like up north where people don't even speak to each other. And the further you go south, I feel the more of that southern hospitality you encounter.
probably until you
Enjoy
get
it.
to Florida. Florida is a
Well,
whole different thing. In some areas of Florida, I'll put it that way. I'm not going to knock the whole Florida, the state of Florida, even though they have
I
a
feel you.
problematic governor there.
I
But
feel you.
we won't get into the
Mhm.
politics today.
And I would imagine that, like with Atlanta, it really is a melting pot of all different ethnicities and cultures. It truly is a melting pot, and I would imagine it's even more so for Florida because everybody wants to live by the water, you know. So they
Yeah,
come from all over the world. Seniors are famous for going there to retire, spend the rest of their days in Florida in the
yeah,
sunshine. So there probably aren't a lot of people there who actually grew up there. You know what I'm saying? Just like
you're
in
right.
Atlanta, it for a long time it was very rare that I encountered anybody who was actually from Atlanta. So I thought that was really amazing because most people you meet, they're from somewhere else, and so they're
Somewhere
telling you
else. Yeah,
about where they're from. So it wasn't really difficult to make the adjustment. I was pretty focused on learning what I had to do just to survive in that space. So, therefore, a lot of the what people would deem as attractions, or venues in Atlanta, I didn't really get to see unless someone was visiting me and I took them there, like Martin Luther King's Memorial, now Olympic Park, places like that. Uh, when people come to visit me from out of town, I am enjoying the event or the place where everybody in the whole world has knowledge of. You live here, but everybody
Mhm.
coming in, I want to see this. And I'm like, okay. But when I show you this, I'm looking at this for the first time too, just like you. So I'm in awe myself and I live there, you know?
Yeah, and it's amazing. And for people watching, you're watching Our Take on It featuring Slim and Shona. Shona is from the city of Portsmouth. If anybody watching outside of Portsmouth, it's like we used to have to say a lot, near Virginia Beach in Norfolk, okay? All right. Yeah. But I think more people know about Portsmouth now because we made some news. Not all of it positive, but we made some
Not
national
all good
news.
news either.
Not yeah, not all good news, but they say any bad publicity can be good too. So a
It's
lot of
still
people know
publicity.
about Portsmouth, even if they don't know where it is. But this is a new show the uh, under the YouTube channel of the
Umbrella.
Slim Nations One-on-Ones podcast. But this is a new show, and we just popped up here with no real agenda, but we just wanted to pop up here and start it off. And you're going to see a lot of us going forward talking about whatever. And we also have the capability to bring I see people out. Shout out to Patricia Morgan. Shout out to Walter Burgess. Shout out to Fannie Parker Bennett. Shout out to Keith Brown. Hey, Keith. Shanice Johnson. And I saw some other people that were watching earlier. But shout out to y'all and thanks for watching right now. And look forward to us having more shows like this. And we have the capability of bringing some of you on live with us. Uh,
I'm
so
looking
but we
forward
won't
to
do that
that.
today because we're just introducing ourselves. But going forward, if you want to come on live with us during the show, I can bring you on live. So get ready for
So
that. And go ahead, Sean.
guess what, James? We're the pop
What's
up
that?
guys. We're the pop up guys.
Man, we just pop up, you never know. And if you're here in the area of Portsmouth or Hampton Roads, it's a jury day. I guess it's going to rain off. It's been raining for the last 2 days, so you might be inside. So if you're inside, you get a chance to check us out as we introduce ourselves to the world, so to speak, and talk about all sorts of things and try our hand as a team here. You know, Shona, we go back and I had a note here about I.C. Norcom. I think that's where we met. I don't think that's where we met. I think we had a class together and we graduated the same year, although she was a little behind us, but that's where we met. And our experiences at I.C. Norcom, where we made lifetime friends that we have to this day. Some of them we had attended their funerals, but that's life too. Just like Shona mentioned in the beginning, good to be above ground anywhere you
Mhm.
are in Georgia or Virginia. So the meeting at IC Norcom, and a lot of people at that time went to IC Norcom because it wasn't a lot of choices. Now, I think integration was just starting because my first year I did go to Wilson, but then I got wise and came back and spent the next 3 years at IC Norcom, where I think I got my better education. And that's where we met. So your experience, yeah, I guess you also went to Clark. I went to Waters, uh, trying to avoid Clark because I've heard so many stories, to be honest with you, and got to Waters, and it was the same thing. So I might as well been at Clark. What I was trying to
Okay.
avoid at
That's
Clark
right.
was at Waters and was just, our neighborhood. It's just the way it was. That was our environment. You just had to deal with it. And most people came out of it unscarred. So you,
Yes,
you went to
most people.
you went to Clark as well, right?
I did. I was a cheerleader at Clark.
Oh, so nobody messed with you, and plus you had a
I
brother.
wouldn't
You
say
had
that.
I think nobody was immune from being bothered. Because I heard stories about, and you know how hungry we'd be at lunch, and you eating your lunch, and Clark was famous for what I heard the egg bread that they had there.
Oh
And if
man.
somebody wanted,
The
huh?
I'm talking the bomb.com.
Yeah. But if somebody wanted your egg bread, they just come and stick their finger in your egg bread and said, "You don't want that, do you?" And what would you gonna say? No, well, go ahead, take it.
But I,
After
I,
they
I
stuck
never
their finger.
had that problem. That really would be a problem. But
Would
you're
okay, being a
gonna.
cheerleader, did the girls give you a problem? Were they jealous?
Yeah, I would have to say yes. Unfortunately, uh,
Yeah.
they really didn't have a name for bullying. They were just mean girls back then. But yeah, I was bullied.
This is a heavy subject, but it's not a sad. But we had a show one time about colorism,
Hmm.
and it was prevalent in our neighborhoods. Some people paid attention to that, the lighter hue or in the
I
darker hue,
thought
and
that
some people it didn't matter. Go ahead, talk
I
about that.
thought I thought that would be a good topic one day. Light skinned versus dark skinned,
Red
because
bone,
yeah, I guess that would be in the light skin category, but I'm just saying it's just
really light
some
skin.
people really are what old people call color struck.
Hmm.
Some people really are, and they fervently believe that. I
Within
had
our own
someone.
community. Within our
Hmm?
own community, we were color struck. If you were lighter, some people
Yeah.
felt this way. If they were lighter, they felt
Sometimes,
that they were better than.
sometimes within our own house. How about that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, because and I can remember, and I confess to this, back in the day when guys were coming up, it was a badge of honor to be able to, and I'll use the vernacular that we used back then, to pull a red bone.
Oh wow. Okay.
And do you know what that means to pull a red bone? That to to go out and get a red bone to have on your arm and date. And it was a badge of honor, especially if you were a darker hue. And then later years, Wesley Snipes came, and that was the big thing. The
Okay.
what do they say? The darker the berry, the sweeter the fruit. But
Sweet as
anyway,
the tooth.
but
Yeah.
it was a problem back there with some people, not everybody, because I knew people of all different colors. It didn't matter, but it used to be really strange to me how some people felt, and they really made an effort to keep that lightness within the family. So they would not let even though if you trace their history back to however far you want to go back, only reason we were like that was because the mixing of the races. But they would try to keep that and really felt that they were better because they were lighter. And
It's like
that was amazing.
racism within the race.
Racism within the race. And it's not talked about a lot now. I can't remember a lot of experiences where it made a difference, at least in my neighborhood, because we were all different shades. But there were families that really felt the difference, and they kind of stuck together. And they would tolerate, just like dealing outside with the whites, they would tolerate, but, not in my family. Too dark. What,
I was actually told by someone growing up that dark men are evil.
mm,
Dark men are evil. And I'm like, somehow I just could never grasp that concept, because I've always thought people are just people.
yeah,
It What matters to me is how we relate to each other,
yeah.
not how you look at all. But
Yeah, it's definitely a learned behavior, and you hear that. Excuse me, you hear that enough
yes,
because
yes.
as a child, you don't see none of that. You don't care about none of that.
Exactly. So, as a child being told that, I didn't realize, I never could grasp the that concept, but I always felt like that was being told by an older person. So if they're older than us, they came up in an era where there was very staunch racism going on. So there was a
Right.
big divide between, light and dark, big divide, even to the point where there was segregation. So that's the era that they
Hmm.
grew up in. Um, However, having said that, this was a black person that told me that. I could
Yeah,
see
I
it
mean,
if
it
it
was.
was if it was a white person that told me that, but I still to this day I don't get it.
I don't get it coming from, and what beyond that. Sometimes, as far as privilege as well, some people privilege felt like they were better than anybody else, and it was just that the opportunities that they were afforded put them in a different financial category, but it didn't necessarily make them better. But some people felt that way, and
Exactly
uh,
right.
and I always and I tell the story about I was raised as an only child, but I had three brothers that because of I was adopted as at a very young age and found out. So I always felt like my adoption. I was lucky to be in a family that were my father was an attorney, my mother was a stay-home mother. So we were, I guess, considered middle class, and but I never knew the difference. I thought everybody outside of my house lived the way I did.
Y'all were rich. Y'all were rich, James.
Oh, I guess comparatively, but I did not feel that because we stayed. As a matter of fact, I live right in the same neighborhood I grew up in. I ended up coming back to take care of my mother and ended up just staying here. So all the people that were around us, I think people, once they were getting to a certain status and were moving out into larger neighborhoods, larger homes, and there was nothing wrong with that. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Uh, my dad chose to stay where we were because the people that supported his business as an attorney, he wanted to be right in that neighborhood. That's where his business was. And to have that connection in that neighborhood, that's why he stayed there and not moving out, somewhere else. And I'm not putting that down, but that was his choice to stay where we were. And
I
but
commend you for
I
doing the
had to,
same.
yeah, I had the privilege of being around people that were privileged that would actually feel like they were better. And I just like the colorization thing, I never could wrap my head around that either because, I saw them, I would go to the bathroom and I saw them going to the bathroom. So what's the difference between me and you? We're doing the same thing.
Right,
So
right.
if you want to prove that you're better or different from me, you go 3 days and don't go to the bathroom. I'll say, okay, yeah, you're different.
Right. Okay.
That's a
I,
crazy
I have
analogy, but
I have actually met women who were were dark skinned and
mhm.
gorgeous, but had a complex because they were dark. I could never understand that because they were
It-
gorgeous.
people made them feel that way, growing up.
That is so
Like
sad. So sad.
some people's some people's hair wouldn't grow. Some girls' hair wouldn't grow as long as others. And then here come the '70s with the afros, which was the greatest natural way to do your hair. But it's just a subject we don't talk much about now because some of the younger people don't experience that within their
True.
own neighborhood because the neighborhoods are mixed anyway, most of them. And but we had some. It was some great value to being in our neighborhoods, because we had people that could do everything. But there were also some problems with coloration and privilege that people I couldn't understand. We already fighting, for equal rights. We already couldn't go certain places. We couldn't go downtown to the theaters when we were younger. We all had to crowd at the Capitol Theater on Saturdays and Sundays
Man,
and
that
watch
was the only
Frankenstein
place we could
movies.
go.
And everybody from Folsom would be in that theater,
That's right.
along with the rats. And
That's right.
so
That's right.
if we're dealing with that, I'm watching the news, Walter Contact talking about civil rights. Why are we dealing with something within our own community, belittling our own people because somebody is lighter, somebody is darker, somebody has more money, somebody doesn't have as much money, but they are taking care of their family just like you are. They're working
Right.
hard. They're doing a job that, is necessary, just like your job is necessary. You
And
know,
it's a serious thing as far as self-esteem for young people growing up
right, right.
because they're
Yeah,
having a hard enough time just finding themselves, uh, irregardless of color, just finding
yeah,
themselves growing up in a world where there was so much turmoil going on uh, regarding color.
yeah. And even today, we say it's not going on, but you still have people
Well, it's
bleaching
alive and
themselves.
well. It is alive and well. My take
Yeah,
on it.
yes, indeed. But we'll go away from that. But the colorization, it was well, most people that I knew, it did not matter because most people realized that's not a choice that we had. We couldn't,
Exactly.
get ready to be born and say, well, let me see, I think I want to be, can I be tan? Or what about blue? Can I be blue? We didn't
Okay.
have that kind of choice. We just
You
came
mean
out
black?
like we
That's the
came
only
out.
color that's left for me to choose from? That's the only one left on the list? I gotta be black? Really?
Yeah, I ain't coming out. I ain't coming out. If I can't be blue, I'm not coming out. No, we didn't have
Okay.
those choices.
No, we
But
did
most people
not.
didn't. Most people didn't care about that, and so that was refreshing. But that small percentage of people that made a difference to them, how they reacted to you, you know, um,
It's
eh,
tough on a psyche,
yeah, was
especially
amazing.
depending on your surroundings. You know, you
Yeah,
may not live in your immediate space, may not have people around you that are receptive. They may be
yeah,
tolerant. That's the difference. Okay, and some places they're downright just intolerant.
yeah.
Um, so it's tough on a psyche.
So you're watching, just joining, you're watching our Take On It featuring Slim and Shona. And I want to shout out to Ashley Watts and Adrian Hill, and Wesley Van, who's in your area, down
Hey,
there in your area. And
Wesley
Adrian
was my
Hill, I
drum
like to
major.
say a shout out to Adrian Hill. She was at Virginia Union when I was there back in the 70s. Hello, Adrian. And she's a member of Delta Sigma Theta. And Ashley Watts from the famous Watts family here in the city of Portsmouth. And I was glad to have Ashley on one of our other platforms to talk about the Watts market and the safe way and
Oh
Seaview
man, you
Beach,
took me way
which
back.
his family was involved in all that. So if you haven't watched
You
that,
took me
go
way
back
back.
and go back and watch that video about Seaview Beach and the history of the Watts family and their contributions right here in the city of Portsmouth and what is now Chesapeake, and all the people they employed, and we all remember those community markets that we had. Watts became Mabry's Market, and then we had out here in the Truxton area, Maplewood Park, we had a Jewish family that Higgins Market, I think it was called, where you could go there and get your food on credit. And
Wow.
sometimes that is necessary, but that was
You're taking us
that was.
way back.
And now we're full of food deserts. Our communities, either we don't have those little markets. Well, we have some of them, but they're not the same as those community markets we had back then. But shout out to you guys and thanks for watching right now. And this is Shona and I coming up here and just talking, shooting the breeze, as they used to say, as an introduction to what we plan on doing going forward with our show, our take on it, which we'll talk about several things. And Wesley, keep watching. One of these times when we come on, we're definitely going to bring you on where we have the capability of bringing people that are watching on live with us right now. So we want to know
Wes,
what's going on with you because you've been on the
Wes,
show many times.
Wesley was my drum major when I was a majorette at IC Norcom High School. He sure
Oh
was.
yeah, I remember that. That was like 71 or 70. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
and I tell people about this how great that band was under Mr. Fields, and we had a chance to interview him maybe a year or two before he passed, and that's on our feed as well. Need to
Okay.
watch that. Uh, Emery Fields. I talked to him about that on that show. The arrangements that Norcom Band used to put together. They did a arrangements, a routine on the spinning wheel. There was a song called Spinning Wheel, and
Yeah.
where they would actually, if you were watching from the stands, you could actually, they were marching, you could see like a wheel spinning while they were playing that. Were you in that particular band that did that, Shona?
I'm I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember.
That might have been before. I think that might even been before. I think Wesley was still playing the trumpet then, before he became
Okay.
drum major. I think he became drum major his senior year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Wesley, you can let us know. But I remember one of those years, the band did a spinning. It was off the song "Spinning Wheel," if you remember that song back in the
I
day.
do.
And they actually had to, watching from the stand, you could see the wheel spinning, uh, the way they marching. Now I know that took a lot of practice and effort and everything,
Mr.
but the
Fierce did not
routines
play.
they used to do, it's like HBCUs in high school.
Mr. Fierce did not play.
Yeah, he was
He was
very
he
strict. I
was
understand.
yeah, he was very, very serious about his band. He did not
And
play.
it showed, and it showed. You can't not put that kind of effort in there and not expect excellence, and it showed.
Exactly. I can remember clearly in elementary school. Man, I had stars in my eyes when we went to Frank D. Lawrence Stadium for games.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm gonna be on that field one day. Okay.
Yeah. Or the
Everybody
parades,
wanted to go to Norcom High School and to be
or,
in the band there. Yeah,
or the parades, and you know what
exactly.
they're talking about now, Shona. A lot of the middle schools, what we call them junior high schools back then, don't have the bands. One of the reasons Narcom was so great because those students that came from Clark were already, they say now they get to high school and they have to sort of teach them how to play. But when they came
Hmm,
from Clark, because Clark had just as good a band as
that's
no, it was
right.
like a feeder school for Narcom band.
That is
So
correct.
once those students got to Narcom, they knew how to play and they knew the music. All they had to do was learn the routine and learn Mr. Fields' ways. But they had, I think Mr. Jenkins was at Clark, and then what they call the guy, the short guy that had the bad feet.
Oh, I know
I
exactly
can't,
who you're talking
I
about.
can't remember his name. He'd be marching with the band and looked like every step was hurt. Ouch, ouch, ouch. That's the that's the way he looked, but he would march all the way down High
Is there
Street.
anybody in the audience who can remember his name? Because I
Remember
have
his
his.
name? Yeah.
I
Put
promise
his
you, I
name.
can see him walking in my mind.
And he had Poochie. Did he have a nickname called Poochie or something like
Yes,
that? Can't
yes,
remember his
yes.
real name right now. Yeah. So they
That's
had
right.
so North when they got to Northam, they were ready. They were ready, and they say the
Because
band was smaller now.
both of those bands worked very hard every summer.
Yeah.
Very hard every summer. So they were really ready by the time school even started. It wasn't
Right.
like it started when school started. You were ready before school even started
Right. They
because
didn't have
you
to
worked
teach
your
them how to
butt off
play.
the
They
whole
just had to
summer.
teach them new music. And they already knew how to play. They knew how to read music, and of course they learned more when they got there. But they were ready. And they say
Yeah,
that's kind of lacking today because it's kind of hard for a band director. The kids get to high school and they have to teach them note by note. Have to teach them the scales and everything. They should already know that by the time they get to high school. But they're working
exactly.
on that here. They're working on that here with our middle schools.
Really,
Trying to,
that's good.
yeah.
Excellent.
Hopefully. Yeah. But anyway, nobody knows Pooch's name. It probably come to
Mallory.
me
It was
when
Mr.
Mallory.
Mallory.
Yeah, yeah, Mallory. You're exactly right. Because when I saw him march, my feet used to hurt because it just looked like you know I was hurting for him. But evidently that was just the way
I
he walked. It
understand.
looked
I
like
remember.
every step. It looked like he was stepping on hot coals.
That is so
But
true.
bless his
That's
heart, though.
funny.
Bless his heart.
Yes,
A lot of
God rest
students
his
came.
soul.
Yeah, a lot of students
But they were
came with
all
through it.
really, they were good teachers. They were
Yes, they
really good
did.
teachers,
And they cared
all of
about the
them.
students, and that extended to the choir, to the orchestra, you know, and the dramatics, club. Was it the club? Anyway, those plays, and because we couldn't wait
Yes,
for assemblies to get out of class, you know, and go. But all the assemblies were really good, So we
absolutely.
got
And
out of class and they got entertained.
also we would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to Mr. Lewis for the chorus. I
Yeah.
remember, I don't know if you recall, but for our senior reception, do you remember the family affair?
Oh yeah, the Overton boys.
Yes.
'Cause
So
when I
they
tell people
sang.
my name now, they think I was a member of that group. They forget
Oh,
about me. They say,
oh,
"Oh, well, you remember the Overton? The singing Overtons?" I know. I probably would
I
have if I could sing.
I remember that for our senior reception, I
Yeah.
sang at the senior reception, and so did the family affair. Um, and after that reception, Mr. Lewis took me aside one day and he cursed me out. He
For
told me
what?
he wanted me to be in the band. He he told me, I'm sorry. He told me that I should have been in the chorus, and here I am marching in front of some damn band. That's exactly what he said to me.
You should have been singing instead of marching.
But
You
he
you
cursed
couldn't
me
do them
out.
both. Want
He
that
cursed me
seasons?
out.
Yeah.
I was marching in front of some damn band. That's what he said to me.
Wow. So you must have been pretty good. You must have could hold a note there, huh?
Maybe a little bit, maybe piquito.
I mean, he wouldn't have cussed
Actually,
you out.
I sang. There was a club in Portsmouth that I sang at when I was a senior in high school. Um, as a matter of fact, at the senior reception, no, it wasn't the senior reception. It was an event where we had dinner for our parents when I was a debutante,
Hmm.
and I sang for that event for the parents. I sang it at that event, and
So you were a debutante our senior year in '72.
yes, I
Okay,
was.
because I was the
Um,
escort. I was the escort. Not the
really?
kind of escort y'all thinking about. I was a debutante escort, not an
Yes,
escort out there selling myself
yes.
to
I
anybody.
was a
Not that kind of
debutante.
escort. I just want to make that clear. Debutante escort. So people can
So,
take things and run with it. I don't want them. Is that not
so
young lady? Escort.
I sang at the banquet. It was a banquet for the parents of the debutantes. So I sang there. I guess one of the parents there. I don't know where he came from. He was the DJ, I think, on the program
Hmm.
for our parents at the banquet. So he asked me to sing at this club. So I did. I went and sang at the little club. Don't ask me what the name of it was, but I remember it was in Portsmouth. I wasn't even old enough to be in a place where they had alcohol, but I went and sang one of Roberta Flack's songs.
Oh, not the
in,
first
in
time
my
ever I saw your face.
it, yes, in my hot pants jumpsuit and a big afro
Whoa,
wig.
hot pants jumpsuit. That sounds
Yes,
like a
sir.
onesie. That's what a onesie looks like that a baby might wear. Hot pants jumpsuit.
Pretty much.
And it could have been Latin 2 because Latin 2 wasn't open
No,
then.
it
It could
wasn't
have
that.
been,
It wasn't
yeah.
Ladin. It was somewhere. I want to say it was up Portsmouth Boulevard somewhere.
Oh, that might have been down the street from Trucking. It was a club called the Zeus Club, I think.
Uh,
I can't
I
remember.
couldn't swear to it, but
Yeah, not too
I
far from
remember
Douglas
that
Park.
clearly.
That was a hot
Yep.
club back in the day.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't know. I
Yeah,
just went there to sing, and after
70s.
I sang my little song, I went home. My parents made sure I went home.
But it's crazy now. You mentioned about the hot pants and people talking about, the way some of the girls dress now. But those hot pants in the 70s, when they came out, everybody was wearing them. I just
That's
never seen
true.
a hot pants jumpsuit. But,
You
you
probably
know,
did, but I guess so. Okay, having said that, I had to sing, so I had to have, on a bad outfit. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
I mean, hot pants was the thing back then.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was
but
a
people don't
hot
believe
pants
me when
jumpsuit. Cause it was
people,
like a romper, I guess you would call it today.
people don't believe me when I tell them during the 70s how guys used to wear these half tops. It'd be a top that stopped right here. But we couldn't do it now because our stomach, we look like we're pregnant. But we had tic tacs and stuff like that. And we would come,
Oh
and now
yeah,
people post something like that now, they might
or
think,
no pack at all.
he, he's a member of a different environment there. But back then, we proudly will, I remember walking across campus, football players had them on. And I can't imagine, I wish I had pictures of it. I can't imagine us walking around like that now, but we were comfortable in ourselves. And it was all about showing off you know, your with your
Abs.
abs, and that was just the style back then. You talk about hot pants, the guys, we had on little half shirts, and you know, and I think about it now, how we might have looked today walking around like that,
So
but
James,
nobody would challenge the guys that wore them.
so you said we wore those. So you wore them? Cause I don't recall seeing you in one of those.
Well, this is when I was in college. I don't think I did it around here. Well, I did when I came home. I do have a picture somewhere around here, me crabbing with a half top
Yeah, cause
uh, and
you were
shorts on.
grown, thinking
Yeah,
you were grown.
I was.
Okay, okay, got you.
Yeah, I was.
But
I was. I was
it's
comfortable
funny
in my
how
skin.
exactly it's funny how fashion does repeat itself, like I've often
Yeah,
heard. And but in today's world, I truly think anything goes. Absolutely anything that you wear is in style.
yeah. I'm not surprised at and anywhere. It was a time where certain events that came up, you automatically knew this is a dress up affair. You know,
Right.
and you wouldn't dare go. Either said formal or semi formal. But
Yes.
now it might as well not say that. In
Okay.
some environments, everybody that comes knows it's a formal and they'll be there. But in other environments, it might say formal, but you go there and and I guess sometimes people come with what they have.
Oh, let me tell you about a new thing that I just learned about from
Okay.
my great grandchild. um, Now in middle school, um, they have eighth grade proms now. That really wasn't a thing per se when we were in school. We did have a semi-formal ball. I forgot what we called it because I went to that too. Anyway, that's when you had the short formal attire on for ladies. But now they have something in the eighth grade called the sneaker ball.
Oh yeah,
Okay, so the sneaker ball. So I
I,
had to ask my
I went to one of
granddaughter, well,
those.
what in the world do you wear to a sneaker ball? So she said you wear a short, poofy dress and some really fancy tennis shoes. I'm like, okay, I can see that. That probably would be cute. So I started trying to help her find dresses for, my great grandchild to go to the sneaker ball. So I did purchase the dress for her, trying to be a good nana. Then my granddaughter sent me a picture of, so I asked her, well, what kind of sneakers would you wear with that? She sent me a picture of a pair of sneakers for a 13-year-old that cost $700. Do,
$700.
do you
What
see my
grade?
face? Do you?
Yeah, I see your face. I want to tell you, get a drink of water or something. You know, a fan or something. Do something because you
I'm
look like
like,
you're going into shock.
exactly.
You probably
I
went
am
into complete
facing.
shock when she told me.
I will in a few months. I'll be 70 years old. I've never had any pair of shoes that cost $700 ever in my whole life,
You probably
but
could
a
have
pair of sneakers for seven
understood
hundred
maybe if
dollars.
the dress cost $700, but the sneakers,
Oh no, no, I can't even understand the dress. This child is 13. She's not getting married. Are you kidding me? Now, to that text right there, I did not even respond. I didn't even respond.
wow, $700 for and uh, I a
Yeah.
ball came up, a hard gala ball that I try to go to every year, and this past year they said it was a sneaker ball, and I remember
Okay.
asking my wife, I said, "What's a sneaker ball?" He said, "Well, you wear tennis shoes, you know." And I had a few, but I had to go out and buy a pair of sneakers, and I was not going to spend. Definitely wasn't going to spend $700 for sneakers to go to the
What? No
ball.
seven hundred
But
dollars sneakers?
my sneakers weren't going to cost more than the suit I had on. So, but I mean, it was the thing, and it was comfortable as far as the feet were concerned. I'm sure the ladies were
I'm
comfortable.
sure.
I just had to get the ladies with a gown on and sneakers, and that was some getting used to. But that's the thing now. But for somebody so young, like you said, your granddaughter, and
Hey. I was like, there's no way I would even consider it. I mean, where else would you even wear these sneakers? And why do they cost $700? First of all, I don't care what the brand is. I don't care whose name is on. I'm not impressed with any item actually with a name on it unless it's my name. Then I'm impressed. I'm gonna
yeah,
buy that. Okay.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm not gonna buy somebody else's name. I'm looking for what that item looks like, the quality of the materials. Okay, if it looks good, I don't care if it costs $5. If it look good on me,
yeah,
hey, I'm gonna buy it. But if not, if sneakers for $700, no.
yeah. You get the
Mm-mm.
same thing for $39.95, and more than likely that's the only time you're gonna wear them. Because some people
Where else would
don't
you
do
wear them?
sneakers, don't do sneakers on a regular basis. So I mean, they not running, they're not doing track, they're not playing basketball. They just get them for that, for the next ball to come up, and then some that might not be the right color for the next ball.
That's exactly right.
So
That's
one
you're
time
buying
wear
that to
for
match
some
that
people.
one specific outfit. Now you can't really wear that outfit again because you just can't. You wore and you got pictures of everything you do is on pictures right now.
Yeah, that's why it's so good to be a guy. We can just wear the same suit. And
That is
when I was
true,
working, when
and
I was working in Norton,
you
when I
really
was
don't
working
notice
in
the
Norton,
difference.
go ahead. When I was working in Norton, I used to tell some of the customers in the custom suit area, just come here and you don't have to you know get a suit for every time the fashion change. Make sure you get the basic colors and work on the accessories. And nobody,
Yes,
you can change the accessories and wear the
you can
same
make
suit.
several
Nobody
outfits
would know the difference.
from a few
You
pieces.
know, but some people will come in there and try to buy a suit because this fashion was in, and then 2 weeks later, the fashion is out, and you walking around in a suit that's out of fashion that everybody knows. Hey, man, they're not wearing that anymore. You know, so but that's why it's good to be a guy. We can just because ladies don't want to be seen in the same gown, not unless they go
That's
to some
right.
been in another state. But that picture is still there.
Exactly. Now everything is on a picture somewhere, probably even on the internet somewhere. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So you can't wear the same thing twice, especially if it's striking.
yeah.
If it's
If
really
if it's
different.
something basic, you can get away, just change your pearls or whatever. the
Right,
accessories and no matter. But
right.
if it's
But
something
it's just really
striking,
different. No, you can't wear that
you,
again.
you got to wear it and sell it.
I guess that's why consignment shop
Yeah,
type
yeah,
businesses are popular now. That was a really good concept that they came up with, and
yeah.
it's
Because
perfect
most
for
of the
that
time you're
sort
not
of
gonna wear
thing.
it. Indeed.
I guess I could have told my granddaughter, why don't you see if you can find something like that at a consignment shop? Because nobody's buying a pair of sneakers for $700. You would be
Uh,
lucky if you got 7 0, just with 1 0 for a pair of sneakers from me.
I'm in shock behind that. She's not my granddaughter, but I can see that coming up with my granddaughter. My daughter wants the best for her. So, but
We
look,
all
before
do,
we
but
go,
an extravagant price doesn't make it the best.
right,
It just
right,
doesn't.
and most people won't even notice if it's from Roses
Exactly.
or the finest place. Now, some people will, but for the most part, most people won't know. You get something and accessorize it, and no one would know. And I can understand if you in that position to do that, you want the best, especially if you advertising for somebody.
Especially for your
But
child.
you want the quality, and you can tell the difference in quality garments. And how they feel and how they drape on you and things like
That's
that.
right.
So if
You
you
would
can
know
afford it,
to Nordstrom's.
huh?
You would know working in the men's department, fitting people for
Yeah, yeah.
suits.
You
You
kind of
would know
tend
that.
to pay attention to that kind of stuff, but not everybody does. I might, and nobody will know that I'm looking them up and down because I've learned how to do it from afar. I can just take the whole picture. Some people walk up and do like this. You don't
Yeah.
know. I've seen the whole picture just by looking in your face. I can see the whole thing.
Wow.
Learn how to do that, but I don't.
Wow.
You know,
So I don't know
you know.
a lot about men's suits. How can you, first of all, how can you tell if a men's suit is tailor made?
Well, of course, the fit of it and the drape of it. You can if you see someone on TV and it's fitting because it's the fit according to that person's body. Because
Of
not
course.
everybody has that chisel look. You might see some
That's
people that
right.
are overweight, but you say,
Yes.
"Wow, that suit really looks good on him," even though he has a belly or drooping shoulders or whatever. If that you can tell by the way the fit. That's the main thing, and because some suits are just made a certain way, and whatever body type you have, it's gonna sit on you that type of way. But if it's tailor made, however your body type is, because we used to do that there, and we measure everything, the shoulders from here to there, we measure everything. And when that suit comes out, when it's made for you, it just you can tell that it probably complements whatever physique you have. I mean, that's why you see some guys in Hollywood that are a certain shape, but wow, don't they look good in that suit? And you can't
Hmm.
pull a suit off the rack for everybody.
Certain guys, all of
And you have to
them,
be really, and
would.
you have to be really aware to be able to tell the thread count on a suit, the quality of it. It's kind of hard to explain that, but you just have to know uh, when you're looking at it. If it's shining and it's not shot skin,
Okay.
something's wrong there. Or if it's not made to be there, but or
But I was
or you can
about to
tell that
say,
person's been ironing that suit. They don't take it to the cleaners. They iron that suit if it's shining. Or if you
you.
take it to the cleaners too much, it'll shine. I used to tell people you don't have to take your suit to a good wool suit. If you take it to the cleaners too much, it will weaken the fabric and the suit won't last that long. And you spend a lot of money on it. All you have to do a good wool suit is let it air out. You know, if you can put it outside on the porch or something like that and let it air out.
Okay.
Unless you really do some James Brown sweating in it. then you have to take it to the cleaners. But some people
Not
take it to the
new dress,
cleaners
but
after every wear and wonder why after a year or two the sleeve falls off because and I paid $1,500 for this suit and the sleeve just fell off because you took it to the cleaner too much. And what they use to clean your suit weakens the fabric if you take it there too
but
much.
but let me ask you this: how old is the suit? Is it even in style? Well, are you wearing it now? If you've had it that
Well,
long,
your
that the
suit,
sleeve is falling off.
yeah, well, you can get a good suit, good, well-made suit. You can get 10 years or more out of it. And that's why I
If
would
it's
tell
not
people
trendy.
you can do the style, but if you get the basic suit that never
Yeah,
goes out of style, and all you have to do is change the accessories to keep up with the fashion, and
yeah.
treat it well, brush it down because even the dust and everything that falls on it can hurt the fabric. So you brush it down, let it air out. You don't have to take it to the cleaners as much, and it can last you pretty long. But uh, some suits won't hold up to a lot of cleaning and no care. You have to care for your suits just like anything else. And if your suit is not that expensive, you have to go that extra mile to uh, to keep it up. But it's not going to last you that long. You just have to get a new suit.
Well,
But
I,
a good
I
wool
would
suit.
I would suggest that if you can't get an expensive suit, then perhaps if you're in a position to get more suits down the line, you don't have to wear one as often. It'll last you longer too.
Right. I mean, it's some really good brands out there at real reasonable costs. It all depends I used to tell some customers that come in there, if you're wearing a suit every day, you might want to spend, if you can, you might want to spend the money on it.
That's
Yeah. If you're
right.
not wearing a suit every day, it doesn't make sense to have a $2,000 or more. And some of them can go up to 5,000. But I never had a
Ooh,
$5,000 suit. But you
wow,
should have a $1,500 to $2,000 suit hanging in the closet waiting for Sundays and Easter.
wow.
You might as well just get a reasonable price suit. If you're not wearing it every day. But those guys that wear suits every day, they know they need even in rotation. You know, it's going to be something you need to invest in, spend some money on. It used to be amazing when Nordstrom first came here. And those suits came in and they were a certain price. Hart Chapter Marks and Hickey Freeman, which was back then the top of the line as far as
Okay.
quality and how they made them. I said, "Man, this not gonna go here." Not in this area where everybody looks for bargains, but there was a certain clientele that were going up to Northern Virginia to buy their suits, and they were looking for someone where they could get those quality suits off the rack or get them made, and which we did there. We size you up, and sometimes I would say, "Wow, somebody's spending this much for a suit," but they knew what they were doing because you know the people they
It,
were
it,
around, they couldn't be around some of the people in a
it
cheap
sort of
suit.
it sort of sounds like when women go to be fitted for their wedding dresses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, always one. What do you look for there? I mean, well, of course, you look for the fit, and then I guess it can be fitted to whoever the person is. But
That's true.
quality really mattered there because now, even though I was in that suit market, I couldn't tell you the quality just by looking at it uh, of a wedding gown. I could tell you if it's fitting like it should, but just looking at it straight up, I couldn't.
I
I'm
I
not that
only had
well
an
versed.
I only had an opportunity to try on wedding gowns once, but when I tell you, it is amazing the feeling that you get when
Mm.
you feel like you found that right dress. It's just an amazing feeling, and I truly understand why when you see shows like "Say Yes to the Dress," that
Mm.
type of show, the brides just break out in tears, or it's just when you put that right one on your body and look in the mirror, you may put on, the train for it or whatever.
Mhm.
All of a sudden it just hits you. I'm getting married. And it is a feeling like no other. I guess that's why the wedding dress industry is so profitable.
Now, did you feel that same way when you tried on that prom dress?
No, it's different. It's different. Although
I knew it
when
was.
it,
I
it's
knew it
it's
was, but
different.
I think for a different reason, a young girl trying on that first prom dress, you going to the prom, it's a different feeling, but it's sort of similar. The first time, oh wow, I'm going to the prom
You
and I'm
feel
dressed up, and
beautiful.
a lot of times it's the first time they put on something as formal as
Yeah,
that.
you feel
Yeah.
beautiful. You
And
feel
then we
like
knew
the
we were
whole
taking it back the next day.
what
We, no, I mean we knew
really
whatever
does
outfit, whatever tuxedo we got, it's going back the next day. So,
really
you
well
know,
when you guys generally rent. Nobody really buys tuxedos like that.
oh no, not until later on. When you're grown and you might be in that, uh, might have the occasional opportunity to go. And we used to do the tuxedos too. And I used to tell guys, it was different prices and that. It all depends on. Some people go to formals all the time, and some people go every once in a while. But that's
Yeah.
something that's good to have in your closet. Because sometimes things come up and that rental tuxedo doesn't always fit like you want it. So if you occasionally go to things, get a tuxedo, have in your closet ready for things to come up. Not so much now because most people just put on a black suit and go to it, even
Isn't
though the
that
invitation said formal.
amazing?
Yeah,
Isn't that amazing?
yeah.
You really, I feel like you really know you're old school when you go to work every day dressed in business attire, and most of the people around you have on shorts and leggings and tennis shoes.
Mhm. And
You
you
feel
try to
like
you try to present, and it's not like you're showing off, but this is where you come
right.
to work. You know,
But see, the thing is, especially for females, I'm glad you put it that way because there's that jealousy thing. They do feel
Mhm.
like you're trying to show off, but you're
Yeah,
comfortable in what you're wearing. Okay, if you don't want to dress down, you shouldn't have to dress down. And
yeah,
for me, I know for me, anything I got in my closet, I'm gonna wear it. Wait
yeah.
for a special occasion. What? No. Mm-mm.
And
If
like they
I feel
say,
like putting,
most women dress for themselves.
that's
They,
exactly
they
right.
satisfy themselves first. Now, you want to be appreciated, of course, but you're not always going out there dressing for to please that other person out there. You're dressing.
That's,
This is the way that makes you feel. That helps your self esteem. You look in the mirror and say,
that's
"Okay,
exactly
I like
right.
this." So it doesn't
That's
matter if
exactly right.
Stylist Sue doesn't like it or she's jealous of the way I am. I'm comfortable in this, and this makes me feel good, and I'm the most important
Exactly.
person in my life.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yep. Yep. So we have gone past an hour, but that's going to
Wow,
happen with
that's
us. I don't want to limit us to an hour because sometimes subjects come up, and we want to allow time, like I said earlier, for to bring somebody on live if that's what they want to do.
yes. I
And
would love to hear from other people.
yeah, we're gonna do that. It's not like I'm gonna bring five people up there, but somebody comes on and we'll make a choice of if you want to come on, let us know, and we'll say, okay, let's bring so and so on. Especially if you might sort of help or have something to say about whatever we're talking about at that moment. We
Exactly.
might not stay on the whole show. We might let you say something about that particular subject, and we move on to another subject. We'll bring somebody else on, but we'll take
That's
you off.
right.
So that's the way.
We
And then
have
some shows we might not have anybody. It's just us. We just think about ourselves.
we have our take, but we would love to hear yours too.
Yes, yes, indeed. And critique us as well, or correct us as well, because or help us out like we were trying to figure out Mr. Mallory's name, and I guess nobody else out there could remember either. But we finally came up with it. And that's what happens at this age. It might not come uh, when you want
I
it,
knew you were gonna
but
go
it's
there.
always on time.
I knew you were gonna go there. But it's all right. It's a privilege
It's all
denied to
right.
me. It's a privilege
Indeed.
denied to many. I wear it as a badge of honor.
Yes, indeed. I'm so blessed to still be here at 70, and just like many other people out there, the health challenges I've had, you know, um, just make me even feel even more blessed, and why I do things like this and share information and share my life and give other people opportunity to share what they've been through because it's therapeutic and it helps somebody else. But here on this, we just want to have a good time talking about things that can get serious sometimes, but we can just throw subjects out there and, and excuse me. And we're going to have certain things we want to talk about going forward that we can follow. But this first show, we just throwed it out there. We just popped up and threw it out there, and just to see how we could do it. And I feel comfortable with you, Shona, uh, sharing some of the things we did. We went into the coloration thing, uh,
Really
and
a difficult subject.
right, right. And we shouldn't shy away from bringing up some things that we experienced uh, and some things that you might experience. We see your comments and I show some of them. And so this is what we're going to be all about. And we're going to figure out when we coming. Hopefully we can pin down a certain time when we are live. Excuse me. What works out best for Shona and my schedule when we are live, and then the show will be out there shown whenever you want to see it. But I think it's good for us to pin down a time where you'll know here comes Slim and Shona at on Saturday at a certain time or Monday night at a certain time. So we're going to work on
Just
that
drop
and work on
in.
a lot of other things. We're going to go back and look at this video and say, okay, well, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that, and work on a lot of things. But we had to start somewhere. And that's why, and to be honest with you, I just contacted Shona today and said, let's go on today. This is how spontaneous this
Not
was.
not just
And
today. That wasn't but a couple of hours ago.
a couple of hours ago. Yeah. So, and I thought when I thought about it, because we've been talking about it leading up to it, and I even put a video coming soon, with us, not saying when or how. And I was sitting here today thinking about it. I said, the best way for us to do an introduction thing is just to pop up and and surprise even her about coming on. And I kind of knew that she might be receptive if she was free to just, hey, let's go for it. And she was, and here we are. And looking forward
Well,
to some good things.
listen, let me just say, I feel like I've been baptized by fire. I feel like you threw me in the water, and that really
Let's
reminds me
just see if you can swim.
of when we went on our senior trip. We went to Nags Head, North Carolina. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Did you get
I
thrown in the
can.
water?
Yes, that's
So we
exactly
were
what I was
throwing
going to
every.
say. But listen, I was sitting on a blanket eating a tuna fish sandwich, chewing tuna and bread in my mouth, James.
Mm,
A group of you guys came and picked me up, both arms, both legs, and took me and just threw me in the water. I can't swim. Here I am. with tuna fish and bread in my mouth when I go
Mhm.
under the water. So I was literally about to drown.
Yeah, choking on a tuna fish sandwich.
James
That would have
James
made headlines.
Harrington James Harrington came and pulled me out of that water.
Yeah, and I was one of those groups of guys that were going around. I don't remember if you were one of
Shame
them,
on
but
you.
it was just a bunch of us. I remember us getting Doris Lewis and Sherry Brown. I mean,
Wow.
and we didn't stop to ask, "Oh, by the way, can you swim?"
I
We
could
just,
not swim, and then I was dropped like on my back with
yeah,
tuna in my mouth.
yeah. Some of those guys couldn't swim. That were throwing you in there. But and that was a spontaneous thing. That wasn't something that we were on the bus saying, hey, that when we get there, we're going to throw anybody laying on the beach in the water. It just came up, and then all the senior girls were victims. Now, I
That
guess you
was not
couldn't scream.
fun.
You had that sandwich in your mouth. But if somebody screamed loud enough, we just left that alone because I don't know what was going on. But it wasn't too.
That was
We didn't
over
get too
50
many
years
people.
ago.
Yeah.
And I still remember it
You
clearly.
still remember that?
It's funny
Yeah, I
the
remember.
things that you remember and the things that you forget, you know?
Yeah, that could have been your last trip to Bank's Head.
Exactly.
Thank,
Oh,
thank God
oh,
for
oh,
Jimmy
so
Harrington.
so that's funny. Really?
Yep, that's funny to y'all.
Oh
Yeah,
my
some
goodness.
of the girls laughed, and some of them really didn't think that was funny at all
Okay,
because there was
I'm
no
in the
warning,
latter
no
category.
no
I'm
warning,
in the,
no consideration if you could swim or not. But we wouldn't have let you be in trouble. But I don't know. I guess that all the guys that threw you in left, and James Harrington came to your rescue.
that's exactly what happened.
Hmm. Well, I hope I wasn't in the crowd that threw you in because,
So now you're gonna say, okay, well, sorry.
yeah,
I'm sorry
if
if
I
I almost
was,
killed you.
it was
Wow.
several groups of guys, So of course you're gonna look out for your Piedmont Heights neighbor to come and save your life.
Piedmont Heights, okay.
Yeah,
Now,
one
mind you,
Harrington lived on Piedmont Avenue, I think. So
let
that
me
was a
see. He
part of
did live
Piedmont.
in that area, didn't he?
Yeah, he lived
Okay.
about three streets over from you. Yeah, because I remember going out there when we had that club. We used to go to our guy's house and pull him out the house and initiate him, take him to
Oh,
Fisher's
oh,
Hill Cemetery at night and leave him there.
that's that illegal hazing they talk about now.
Well, yeah, it was some of that too. Yeah, but
Oh
we
yeah.
we were acting, because we knew that's what the guys in college did. It was several high school fraternities back then, the executives, diplomats, and we were the
I remember.
Imperial. We had dances at the Sahid Club, and so
Hmm.
we did what we saw the Kappas and the Omegas at Norfolk State doing, and but nothing to the point where Well, I don't know. I can't. We probably were a little out of line on some things, but most of our stuff was more like seeing if you could take being left in the grave in a grave site at night, and Fisher's Hill was rumored to be haunted.
There is no way in the world that I would want to be connected with anybody that badly that I would want to go and be left in a graveyard in the middle of the night.
Well, that was the initiation, and the guys. We had a big group of guys, and we at one point we would play sandlot football games against each other,
Mm,
and then this group came up called the Black Bishops.
I remember that
Now,
name.
now think about that, and these were people like Sweet Wolf,
Oh yeah, I
Head
remember that
Baby.
name
I
well.
mean, most of them were football players, and they didn't want to be a part of the traditional fraternities that we had in high school then. And this was during the Black Power movement. So they were the black bishops. So we had a football game with them scheduled. We met them out at Norcom. They came out there with cleats, helmets, pads, like they were in a real game. And
Wow.
we
So
said,
let me go ahead.
we didn't play that game because we played. It was just regular, just show up in your jeans and your top
Yeah,
and play an honest game of football like y'all used to play over in Piedmont House. You remember that empty field that used to be on the corner where
that was
all
the
of y'all
field,
congregated?
the one
Yeah,
and only the field,
yeah,
where everybody went and hung out until the street light came on. What?
yeah. And we had a circle down the street from us where everybody hung into the circle. But it's a house there now, I think. But I can
Yes,
remember going over
yes.
to see my
They
aunt,
just
and
threw.
everybody, y'all would be in that field doing something.
That's right.
But you
That's
didn't
right. So
join any. They had sister clubs. You didn't join any of the seniorettes or seniorities, or it was some sister clubs, and we had
no,
imperialettes. Yeah.
no, I didn't. I was involved in a lot of activities, but they were mostly academic type activities, the science
Mhm.
club, the social studies club, that kind of stuff. But let me ask you this. Those
Mhm.
um those social clubs that you were involved in, or the one that you were involved in, are any of you still close like traditional, real fraternities?
Well,
Because it's
not
supposed to be a lifelong,
we still met.
connection.
It was Imperial Psi Epsilon was the whole name of us. And
Hmm.
Jimmy Harrington, you mentioned him. He's the one that we were the Imperials. He said, I know the Greek names we can use, Psi Epsilon. We looked at each other. Nobody knew what that was
He was
but
smart.
Jimmy. He was smart. He knew. And we said, okay, that sounds good, whatever it is. So we were Imperial Psi Epsilon. So for short, we were I Psi E. I Psi
Okay.
E. That's the
Okay.
short, Greek letters, Imperial Psi Epsilon. So to this day, when we see some of us members see each other, we say I Psi E.
Okay.
And it's a few of us still around that are away. When we see each other, we are not officially together, but we've been talking for 50 years. We got to get together. And some of us
But you
still get
still have
together
that
informally.
connection.
Yeah. Matt Davis was in it, Keith Jones, Jimmy Harrington, Big Red,
Okay.
um, and a lot of people throughout the city were a part of it. And we
Okay.
see each other. Acai, yeah.
I saw. All
It
right
kept us
then.
out of trouble. It kept us out of trouble because we were always doing something as a group. Uh, having those dances or trying to do stuff in the community. And we had our parents supported us. I think they looked at us and say, these guys trying to do something. So when we had a
That's
dance at the
important.
Tahi, the parents of some of the guys were chaperones for the dance,
That's
because we,
awesome.
we were underage. We were underage. So
Yes.
remember the Positive Sounds, this group, this band that was out back then? We had a
Huh?
party at the Holiday Inn and had a live band. These are high school students now. We had a live band called the Positive Sounds
That
at
was
that time.
major back then.
That was major.
That was major.
We
Yes.
we signed the contract and everything, and we probably were
Wow.
illegal. We weren't old enough to sign a contract. Maybe
But
somebody in our group. We was
it probably taught you a lot about business,
yeah.
how to
It did.
organize. It probably taught you like you had to be disciplined to do stuff as a team. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was important.
And brotherhood. We were serious about being a part of
Absolutely.
it. We considered each other brothers, and if something happened to one of our brothers, I mean, we won't go around looking for trouble, but we would come together. And when I was playing basketball, they would sit there and together and cheer me on whether I got in the game or not.
That's the way it should be. That's what we're missing in our neighborhoods nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was amazing time, and to remember. I like to see something like that with our young people now, and it goes on in a certain to a certain extent in our high schools, but not like it was back then. Nothing is like our time, just like our parents used to say nothing was like their time. So
That's true.
that's
Well,
true.
I don't know so much about them because it was really rough in our parents' times coming up.
But,
Really rough.
and I'll say this, I'll say this one thing I really admired about our parents, my parents, because they couldn't go anywhere, everywhere. So they formed their own little groups and had all these. Some of it was like a pinochle club, where they just get together and play
Yeah,
cards, and some of
that's
it
true.
was, my mother was in a group called the Llama Teens or something like that, and their motto was "Eat, drink, and be merry." It was nothing about anything serious. They just getting together, a bunch
I
of
like
ladies
that.
getting together and having a good time. Even through all the adversity that was going on with and some of those times women couldn't even vote. They didn't get to vote until
Mm,
64, and people don't
mm,
realize that.
that's right. That's
And
absolutely
you
right.
couldn't, a woman couldn't, she couldn't own a credit card. You had to
Hmm.
be a
Be
part of your husband's credit card.
husbands,
Certain
yeah.
things you couldn't do.
And
And
get
and you think it
information
sounds like it was
to
in the
use
40s
it.
and 50s, but that was in the 50s and 60s, early 50s and 60s, where women couldn't do certain things.
That's true.
You got to admire the women then, and to keep a household
Yes, but back then,
and stay up.
truly, the adage "it takes a village," that was true. That was reality back then. It takes a village, and even now, it
Yes,
takes a village. But we don't have it like that anymore, which is one of the reasons for the breakdown in society when it comes to just the whole mentality of young people nowadays.
yes, indeed. And we have to be honest enough to call it out when we talk about the problems in society today. A lot of it starts at home, and you have to call it out. Renee was telling me the other day she was somewhere, and the way a parent was cussing out a little child in public. Now, I don't think our parents had to do that much because we knew, they would tell us, "You're not going to embarrass me in public." And if we did, they
Okay.
would handle it in public, but they didn't have to do it but once.
I
And
know
most of
that's
the
right.
time, and it's grown folks talking, and I always disagree with that because I feel like I got something to say. But, that was just the time then, but,
Exactly. In our
but you,
house, the fear was for the razor strap because my father was a barber. That thick,
oh,
wide strap that he would
that they was
sharpen the
stopping the
straight
razor.
edges
Yeah.
on. Oh yeah, and
Hmm.
that leather was about that thick. Okay,
Hmm.
yeah. So we pretty much stayed in line.
Yeah. It's controversy about that now. Did that really help? But
Oh, for sure. You can't do
I
that
probably now it's not good because the kids are conditioned a different way. I don't see a lot of people that came up during our times, and most of us got whoopings, got beatings, that really harmed us because we didn't do it, keep doing it, and keep getting beatings, a few times. And pretty much we knew when we were going to get it. We knew we had messed up, but we
That's right.
did it anyway, and we knew
That's
the
right.
beating was coming. So psychologically, I don't think a lot of us were harmed by that. It really probably saved some of us from doing really crazy things. But the environment is different now with kids and what they're exposed to, and probably it's not the best idea to do it that way now. It's probably a better way to handle it because the kids can call up on you now. I mean, they can call the police and have
Okay.
you arrested. You know, and you're
It
just
is a
trying to discipline, and they can do it even if you didn't hit them. So you have to,
That's right. That's exactly right.
have to
It's
discipline in a different way.
oh, I'm just glad it's not my era to have to raise children because I
Right.
would imagine it's extremely difficult.
Yeah. And it doesn't help having us as grandparents to let them get away with everything.
Well, our job is not to be the disciplinarian.
Right,
You know,
right. Well, we went through that with our children. We said, "Who- my parents let them get away, but and now we're in that position to do that. And like I said, it's not our job. But a lot of grandparents are in that position. That's kind of sad. I mean, some grandparents don't mind doing that, or they're forced to because either in incarceration or people died, unfortunately, by accident or illness, and they're put
okay,
in that position. But some positions they are in there and they don't necessarily have to be. You shouldn't have to be a grandparent have to raise a, children again. But
right.
sometimes it's
Es-
necessary. But sometimes it's
Especially
not necessary.
that's true. There are instances where there even when there aren't drugs involved, with the parent. There
Mm,
are some people are just trifling and should not be parents. It's sad to it's really a sad state of affairs, but some people just should not be parents
yeah,
because they have children and they really don't even want children. They're not even raising the children. They're just keeping them alive, more or less. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
The children are raising themselves,
yeah. Sometimes the
and
grandparents have to step in, but
it's
uh,
totally
Frank,
unfair.
Frank Sinatra say that's life.
Hmm. That's true.
But anyway, we're really gonna go now, and you've been
All
listening to
right.
our take on it, and we hope you watched and picked up on our impromptu ness, the way we came at this, and we're gonna work on it and make sure. But we will be back, and we will be back soon. And Shona knows that I might call her anytime before we officially launch and say, let's do another. So, but hopefully the next one we do will be more of official launch because,
Bear
like I
with
said,
us.
we're gonna have to, put something together that our own brand together under the uh, under the
Umbrella.
Slim Nation uh, umbrella. Right. Thanks. And I'd like to say hello to Portia James, and it's good to see these people that were at Union with me. Portia James was, as a matter of fact, let me tell you about Portia James was the president of the university's daughter. Portia
Wow.
James, Dr. James, Alex James, and he was the president and stayed in this huge house, not too far from the campus. And Portia
That's a
James was the
blessing.
daughter, and she was just as down to earth as you could be. A majorette in the band, and we became friends, and still long distance friends. So thanks for watching, Portia. Appreciate you. Hopefully one day we'll get to see each other again.
Thank you,
But
Portia. Yeah. And come on the
yeah,
show.
yeah, we'll get you one of these times. You come on the show and talk about your experiences there. We had some good times, and what a great period in our lives there at Virginia Union University. Okay, that's it, and we're gonna go. Any last words from you, Shona?
Wow.
Shona,
I I, I have to be honest and say that it's been more fun than I thought it would be. I was really nervous on those first two podcasts that we did together. I actually had to have some assistance. I drank some wine before I came on because
yeah,
I
yeah,
was nervous to settle my nerves. But
nervous,
this is
and
pretty
plus
cool.
that was a heavy subject,
Yeah, that's true.
along with just being nervous, you know. But you've been on
That is
podcasts
true.
before.
It was a pivotal moment for me
Mhm.
in my life. And actually, that drama is still unfolding, but that's another subject for
Yes,
another
indeed.
day.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to do this, and we had not planned to do this. I think that after you came on the show, um, and talked about it twice, or once solo and once with somebody else that had written a book about it. And and then we were talking back and forth because it was years in between. I think the last time we really saw each other was we had a 45th class reunion, and we never did put the 50th together. But I'm glad we had that 45th because that gave us a chance. Because if we had to miss that and then miss the 50th as well, that would have been not a great thing. But that's the
And a
last
lot
time
of
we
people
really
have
got
left
together.
us since then.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the reasons we did it because a lot of people were leaving us prior to that. And I said, we better not wait till 50. Let's have something now, and we did. And it was a great
I,
time for us to be together as a
I had a
class. And
ball. I had a ball. That was
yeah,
momentous for me too because I had been away
yeah,
from home for so long. I'll never forget that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
remind me that I said that when I have Alzheimer's down the road and I can't even remember to brush my teeth. Do you remember that time when we went to the class
yeah.
reunion?
Yeah, well, for both of us, we'll still be doing the show, and might not even know why, but we'll still be doing it. Well, we
We'll just pop
appreciate
up.
everybody
Okay,
that's
let's talk.
watching.
What's on our mind?
Yeah, yeah, and I know some people were here and went in and out because we did go a little longer than we thought, but
And
we
people
had
have
quite
stuff
a
to
few
do.
things to talk about. Yep, and
Mhm.
we might go longer other times too. Like some of the shows I see on YouTube, they have more than an hour they talk about. So as we go along, but we will set a cutoff time. But we might go longer than an hour, especially like I said, we bring people on, and especially if I
But
get
then
talking.
that's the beauty of the internet. You can always go back and fill in on what you missed.
Right, right, right. Because I know everybody has a busy life. Let me show my hat
Exactly.
again.
Yes. P Town.
G-Town, KD Heights. We had to get you a Piedmont Heights hat
Yeah, yeah, we
or
do.
shirt. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
So I'll take on it. Shirts, T-shirts might be coming. So no telling. Sky's the limit. Well,
This is
again,
true.
thanks everybody, and make
Thank you
sure
so
you
much
go
for
on.
having
If you're
me.
watching on YouTube, if you go on YouTube, like this show, and subscribe to the Slim Nation.
Hit like,
Like I
hit
said, we
like,
upload
hit
our
like, hit like.
hit like for this particular show. Yeah, and we'll see you next time. So take care, Shona, and have a great day. And traveling mercies to you.
Thank you. See you next time.
See you next time. Let me see. We can go out here. You're gonna hear my theme going off, but next time we come on, it'll be the Slim and Shona theme that I'll figure out something somehow.
I'm
I
excited.
might even have Shona sing it since she said she could sing. So what a way to find out.
No, you
What a
didn't.
way to find out. Might have to be doing this.
I only sing in the shower now.
Well, you can make it in the shower. When you're in the shower, you can make our theme.
Oh my God. Okay.
Just turn the water
I'm gonna have
down
to
and make
sing
our
on that
theme.
one.
Okay, we go. See y'all later. Take care. Have a great day.
Take
It's time for us to sit down at the table and turn this chaos into something stable. For love, one on one. We will not accept defeat, not on our land, not in our streets. Getting it done. Reaching out to save the youth, letting them know the truth. Slim Nation is where good conversations dwell.